On the field. Off the field. Sports talk. Entertainment and more. This is Sauce on the Side.
Well, hello there, Dippers, and welcome back to episode 76 of the Sauce on the Side podcast. As always, Dippers, I'm your host, Drake, joined by the man, the producer, Mr. Layton Bib Shavantone.
Steve Wilkes must have had a pretty hard time in Arizona, being 5 to 1 year, 3-13 season. Most time you see coaches last longer than that, David Johnson, Larry Fitzgerald.
And joining us today, our guest host, Mr. Brandon B. Riker.
In 25 collegiate starts, George Kittle hauled in a whopping 48 passes for 737 yards. This year alone, he has 88 receptions for 1,377 yards. Tight end is a very weird position.
Yes, it is. I never really understand that because, obviously they drafted him like he would be their starting tight end. Yep. It just shows you the difference between NFL being able to evaluate talent and college coaches being able to evaluate talent.
I mean, basketball players are NFL tight ends.
Yes,
Strange.
They definitely are. And, the funny thing is that his quarterback at the time was C.J. Beathard. And in C.J. Beathard's final season, there was actually 2 players in college football that had more rushing yards than what C.J. Beathard had passing yards. As always, Dippers, be sure to listen on Spotify and iTunes, download, subscribe, give us a 5-star review. Be sure to check us out on thefsgn.com where you can find our podcast and other podcasts as well. And be sure to follow on Twitter and Instagram at The Saucy Pod. Dippers, today we're going to hand out some NFL season awards. We're going to do an NFL full season recap for word association, break down the NFL playoffs. We're going to bring back the shittiest take of the week because everybody was hot and heavy after the NFL season had concluded. And we will talk about the upcoming bowl games and just hit on a little bit of basketball. So, guys, first on the slate, NFL Word Association for the NFL season. Guys, who was the biggest winner of the NFL season?
The biggest winner of the season was Le'Veon Bell. Steelers missed the playoffs. If they had him, they probably would have made it.
I'm going with Andrew Luck. He solidified his claim for the bounce-back player of the year.
Oh, yeah. I went with Andrew Luck, actually, too. He went from a guy who may not be playing at all over the next few seasons to jumping right back in and being a Hall of Fame caliber player. Mm-hmm. Biggest loser?
Hugh Jackson. Brown stuck with him. He leaves. They're going to be, 7-1, and Bengals suck.
Bengals do suck. I'm going to go with the Vikings. I don't think there's a more disappointing team. A lot of people Super Bowl pick.
I'm going to go with future quarterback salaries. Guys, the top 6 paid quarterbacks in the NFL are not in the playoffs, and I think that's something that people are going to evaluate down the road. Biggest surprise?
Patrick Mahomes. Definitely.
It took 87 games for the former wide receiver turned quarterback to grab a receiving touchdown in Ryan Tannehill. That puts him behind Mariota, Nick Foles, Andy Dalton, Drew Brees, Russell Wilson, and Blake Bortles, who caught a touchdown pass faster.
Wow. That is unbelievable.
Yep.
Biggest surprise to me, Lamar Jackson, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, and Josh Allen will all be starting quarterbacks in the NFL for a long time. Biggest disappointment?
Pittsburgh Steelers had the leading passing yard, 2 1200-yard receivers, low league in sacks. They couldn't win the division, going against Baker Mayfield, Jeff Driscoll, and Lamar Jackson. Think of that for a second.
That is crazy,
unbelievable.
Actually. That's unbelievable. I was going to go with the biggest disappointment was the weight of a city was put on Blaine Gabbert's shoulders.
That may be the biggest disappointment. I think you're going to win that. That's even better than mine. Mine was the Jaguars and the Vikings. We expected more, but that is a huge disappointment for the city of Nashville. Impact injury.
They could go a lot of places, but I went with Keanu Neal and Ricardo Allen, the 2 safeties for Atlanta. They're the 2 safeties that defense might actually have been good, and they may have made the playoffs.
I'm going to have to go with Alex Smith. Redskins probably would have made the playoffs with him.
That's so odd to think about the Redskins being in the playoffs.
I know.
My biggest impact injury, and this is a weird spin. I kind of put my own little spin on this. Jimmy Garoppolo. Guys, they were going to be a fringe playoff team. Mm-hmm. Definitely not ready to compete for an actual title yet. But now they get the number 2 pick in the draft, and they get their franchise quarterback next season. This may be a blessing in disguise. I mean, as bad as an injury is, it may actually be a blessing in disguise because, they have a team ready. They have a starting quarterback ready. Now they get the number 2 overall pick. It'll be an interesting team next year. Biggest WTF moment of the season?
Actually, season-long WTF moment. The Patriots underwhelmed all year, even looked really bad at times, and still got a first-round bye. Because the dub's a dub. And if Gronk wasn't really bad at safety, to be a number 1 seed in the AFC.
That's very true. I just went, Andrew Luck is 11-0 versus the Titans.
Wow.
That is insane. 11-0.
That's pretty good odds.
Yeah, that one figured out, man.
Yeah, and especially yesterday, he knew he was going to win that game. Goes in there 10-0, playing Blaine Gabbert. He had it made. My biggest WTF moment. Only 9 more years of John Gruden. Biggest overreaction.
Let's get to it. The money the Eagles spent to bring back Nick Foles was the best money any team has spent on a free agent ever.
That's very, very fair. I said the Chargers proved how stupid / unfair division-based seeding is. They won 12 wins, and they don't even have a home game.
They won't get a home game this whole entire playoffs, which is just unbelievable.
12-4.
Yeah. My biggest overreaction. This year's Patriots were the most scrutinized team in NFL history to get a first-round bye. I mean, Layton hit it on it earlier with his WTF moment. But, I mean, really, the main stories of the NFL season basically carry over. Like what me and B-Rock, we were both on the train with Andrew Luck being this just amazing comeback story. And the Patriots, no matter how good they are, unless they're going 16-0, we just scrutinize the hell out of them. So I think that this NFL season, the storylines are basically set in stone, like what we will remember from this season.
Yeah. Before we get on to Jake's thoughts, I have one other thing with you guys' thoughts on. So today, Marvin Lewis got fired, but they say he stepped down as a Bengals head coach. And he endorsed Hugh Jackson. How in the world can you hire Hugh Jackson as your head coach?
Never.
You can't. Is he just so good at interviews? You're like, you know what? This guy's got it figured out now.
And honestly, there's no way that he got fired because you don't get to pick your replacement if you get fired.
No.
You only pick your replacement if you step down. This is my man in waiting, and I'm just going to hand the torch over to him. Kind of like I feel Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniels will do whenever Bill Belichick finally decides to call it quits. And he earned that. He has the Super Bowl rings to do so. And then you look at Marvin Lewis. He's a guy who has 0 playoff wins. Who is he going to endorse as his head coach? It only makes sense that it's Hugh Jackson.
So you think that Marvin Lewis definitely stepped down, wasn't fired?
Oh, 100% was not fired.
You think that Bill Belichick's going to step down and endorse Josh McDaniels when that time comes?
He's not just going to only endorse him, but he will tell them that they will hire him.
Do you think Tom Brady's going to step down and endorse his son, Tom Brady Jr., as next quarterback for the Patriots?
I think it'll be his grandson because at that point his son will be too old to play in the NFL, but yes.
All right, well, that's a very longful thought of you. Get more longful thoughts?
Yes, I do actually.
It was all a dream. I used to read Word Up magazine.
There are 3 guarantees in life: death, taxes, and Pittsburgh Steelers locker room problems. Stat of the year. The San Francisco 49ers had 7 takeaways this season. Xavier Howard had 8. DeMonte Kazee, Kyle Fuller, and Eddie Jackson all had 7. Oklahoma won the Best Offensive Line in the Country award this football season. After watching their bowl game against Alabama, I'm just going to go ahead and assume that the same people that voted for this award were the same people that voted for the playoff teams. Cleveland Browns heartbreak and disappointment. The butt of Steelers fans' jokes for the last 10 years. Cleveland Browns heartbreak? Not so funny anymore, Steelers fans. Nick Foles, after his 470-yard performance, sets the NFL record for most consecutive completions. Eagles fans still convinced he's a backup quarterback. Notre Dame, 5-13 in their last 18 bowl games. 2 of those wins include a powerhouse Rutgers team and a powerhouse team in Hawaii. Notre Dame fans still convinced they have a national powerhouse. Notre Dame, maybe a conference would help. Marvin Lewis, finally out as Cincinnati head coach. 2019 dream scenario. Marvin Lewis, Cincinnati front office. Hugh Jackson, Cincinnati head coach. Green Bay Packers, looking to upgrade a head coach. When the news broke that Pat Fitzgerald, 95-70 at Northwestern, may be the front runner, Bears fans everywhere began to applaud. Kyle Allen, future NFL starter. Josh Rosen, future NFL backup. And there's a new book out this week. It's titled Last First Round Quarterback Taken, Last Man Standing. And it was written by Lamar Jackson. And those have been my thoughts.
You see who the awaited new GM is?
Who's that?
Mike Mayock.
Oh, wow.
The guy who worked for NFL Network.
I'm surprised that it's not John Gruden.
Well, no, John Gruden is head coach. Basically GM, too.
Oh, yeah. The Raiders just, they don't do anything to surprise me at this point. Hopefully Mayock can actually get some players in place that John Gruden had wiped out of Oakland, and maybe that team can be competitive going forward. So, guys, we'll go ahead and give out our NFL season awards. I have one that's probably going to surprise you, but we'll start it off hot. NFL MVP.
I'm actually blown away you haven't this going to surprise me. But, start the MVP award. Patrick Mahomes. 50 touchdowns, 5,000 yards. Brandon, do you know how many quarterbacks in history of how many players in history of football have 50 touchdown passes and 5,000 yards and now won the MVP award?
Oh, I'm guessing 0.
0, yep. I don't know if time it's happened, but...
So, yes, I think Patrick Mahomes will win it. And, I mean, it would be crazy to say that he's not deserving. But I think the most impressive season belongs to Aaron Darnold. He has the most impressive season by defensive tackle, interior lineman of all time. He has the most sacks, the most tackles for loss, and the most quarterback hits of any interior lineman. And he's top 10 in pretty much all of those categories for all the seasons of the NFL. But who's most valuable to his team? It's Patrick Mahomes. Their defense isn't good. He makes crazy plays. He's the most valuable player.
I actually, for MVP, I'm gonna go with the most valuable player to his team. And I look at Patrick Mahomes, and I think a lot of people in his scenario would have a ton of success. So I'm just gonna start off here. Patrick Mahomes dealt the hand of having 11 games with Kareem Hunt, the defending rushing yards leader from last season. Tyreek Hill, who in his second season, with a guy that everyone called a check-down machine in Alex Smith, averaged 15.8 yards per reception and put in 1,200 yards of offense last season. He also had Travis Kelce, who's had at least 800 receiving yards in every single season that he has gotten a target, and came into this season with back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, and he even had 10 games with Sammy Watkins, who's a legitimate 1,000-yard talent when healthy. He was on pace for 830 receiving yards this season, and he had 2 games within those 10 with only 1 target. And, you look at the full complement that Mahomes had been given. When he had a full onslaught of talent, he had 330 pass yards per game and 3.4 touchdowns per game with a 67% completion percentage, 9-2 record. And 9 of those 6 games were actually more than 1 score. So anybody could have flourished in that system, and then you have Mahomes, since Hunt and Watkins left with injury, 294 pass yards, 2.5 touchdowns, 62% completion percentage, went 3-2, and only one of those games were a win by double digits, and that was Oakland. And they even played Oakland twice over that stretch. Mahomes, he stepped in on a 10-win team, managed to get 12 himself, had 3 of the top skill players, and those skill players weren't at the end of their career. Like, they were 2nd, 3rd, 5th year player that are only getting better. I get it. Patrick Mahomes, his stats are better, but, Alex Smith averaged 71 yards per game more in this system than in a 20-point cute quarterback rating and 1.5 yards per attempt in this system compared to what he was with the Redskins. Where I look at my NFL MVP, Andrew Luck. His best weapon was a guy who had to catch the ball and immediately run out of bounds or fall down in T.Y. Hilton, who was basically banged up all season. And T.Y. Hilton's a guy who didn't even get 1,000 yards last year or 5 touchdowns. Eric Ebron, his number 2 wide receiver who couldn't even cut it as a tight end in a bad Detroit team. Luck gave him his career high in receptions, yards, and touchdowns. In his previous career touchdowns, high was 5. This year, Luck fed him for 13. And then if you look at the running back comparison that Luck had been dealt, he was a guy with a 3-headed monster. His 3-headed monster included 2 running backs that were rookies, that were 4th and 5th round picks, and a Marlon Mack who came into this season averaging 3.8 yards per attempt. You know, Eric Ebron, T.Y. Hilton, Dontrell Inman, Eric Swoops, Nakeem Hines, Zach Pascal, Chester Rogers, Jack Doyle, Mo Allen Cox, Marlon Mack, Marcus Johnson, Ryan Grant, Ryan Hewitt. Who are half those guys? They're all guys that caught touchdowns for Andrew Luck this season. Guys, he threw touchdowns to 13 different players, and probably 8 of these guys couldn't even make another NFL roster. Luck took over a team that was 4-12, that had the 30th best offense in the NFL, who added a guard and a linebacker that were both rookies, and a tight end that we all considered a bust, wins 10 games, makes the playoffs, and has his offense in the top 5 of all of the NFL. I know Patrick Mahomes statistically was great. He was phenomenal. But whenever I look at a guy for an MVP award, and I've always treated the award as such, it's the guy who's the most important player to his team, and Andrew Luck, far and away, was the most important player to his team on this season. Thoughts?
That's a lot of words you just said.
That was a lot of words that just got said.
Yeah, Andrew Luck, make an argument for it. If Patrick Mahomes, didn't have, like one of the top 3 season quarterback ever, then yeah, Andrew Luck could probably win it. But top 3 seasons ever, I'm talking about right here.
It's all how you look at the MVP. Is it the most valuable player to your individual team who is a playoff team, or is it simply who had the best absolute season? And Patrick Mahomes had a historic season. I mean, hell, even Aaron Donald had an historic season. Although Andrew Luck did do all those things that you said, he didn't have a historic stat season, and that is one of the reasons that he's just not going to win. But I do think he should probably be getting some more love than he's getting.
Yeah, he's absolutely gotten no love, and I don't understand that. And people just basically give the award out for the most, like the best stats, and it just doesn't make sense because it's not the season. Like the award's not called who had the best season. It's most valuable player, and I'm going to treat it as such. So guys, offensive player of the year, who do you have?
Patrick Mahomes. I told you the stats. Ruby Todd Gurley, but Todd Gurley missed past few games. Played bad down the stretch, injured. Mahomes gets the award.
This is absolutely Patrick Mahomes, hands down.
I actually have Patrick Mahomes. I think it's obvious because it's a stat-based award. Second in yards, first in touchdowns, second in a single season touchdown history, better than 4-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. I mean, he completed 2 out of every 3rd pass. He was just absolutely phenomenal. An award that should be about stats. Patrick Mahomes giving the award. Defensive player of the year, guys. Who do you have?
Aaron Donald, generally say the best season for any interior lineman ever. 20 and a half sacks is insane.
He's actually has more sacks this year than he's had his previous 2 seasons combined. And didn't he win Defensive Player of the Year last year? I mean,
yeah, he did.
This is a no-brainer to me. He has had the best season of an interior lineman in NFL history, and he's the best defensive player this year.
Oh, man, this one's tough. So, Aaron Donald, I know that the sacks are great. The 20 sacks are phenomenal.
20 and a half.
20 and a half sacks are phenomenal. But who's the most important player on a defense to stop the run?
If it's a tackle, middle linebacker, wait.
Defensive tackle has historically been looked at the most important position. Guys, they're dead last in stopping the run. They've allowed 5.1 yards per attempt in the NFL. So I feel like giving Aaron Donald the award is basically just saying like, oh yeah, if a quarterback goes out there and throws for 2,500 yards and 50 touchdowns, we're automatically going to just propel him straight to the top whenever one thing's great, but the other is not that phenomenal. And you look at this, his defense is ranked 20th in the NFL. At what point would we ever give an offensive player, offensive player of the year award out to a guy whose offense is ranked 20th in the NFL? Never. Well, and I look at a guy like, what was that?
I don't think you can compare one person on offense to one person on defense. I think one person on offense can have much more of a
impact.
What do I want to say? Basically, a much more influence on that overall stat than one defensive player.
Yes, but I just, the defensive tackle position is there to help stop the run. And they give up 5.1 yards per attempt. And that's not cutting it for me. Like, I get it that he's a great pass rusher, but at this point, like, it almost looks like it's just like a one-trick pony. I would go with, even though he missed time, Khalil Mack. Like, you put him on a decent Bears defense from last year, and they become the number 1 team in turnovers. They become the number 7 team against the pass, and the number 1 team against the run. And then if you look at the surrounding talent, Eddie Jackson, 2 interceptions last year, 6 this season with 2 less games. Kyle Fuller, his career high in interceptions was 4 this year. He leads the NFL in 7. And Akeem Hicks, 7th year in the NFL, sets career highs in tackles, forced fumbles, and pass deflections, and it's all because of Khalil Mack being there and being a part of the defense and making this defense better. I mean, you have 3 guys that are heading to the Pro Bowl for the first time ever that were there with Vic Fangio last year, and all you basically do is throw in Khalil Mack. And Khalil Mack, whenever he was injured or out, he played those 2 games where he wasn't right, played 2 games where he just, then he sat out 2 games. They were 2-2 over those games, gave up 30 points twice over that time, and whenever he's healthy, they're 10-2, give up 30 points one time. He makes more of an impact on defense than any other player in the NFL. I know Aaron Donald has great sack numbers, but he is a one-trick pony in the sense that it's really teams are able to run the ball right at him. I mean, he allowed Jordan Howard to have the first game of the year in like week 13 with 100 yards rushing, and they ran it straight at Donald every single time.
Yeah, he is also though first for tackle for loss too. I mean, he's got a couple of other stats, and you said earlier, offensive player of the year is a stat award. So I would feel like defensive player of the year award is a stat award. Once again, that's why I'm going with Aaron Darnold. I think Khalil Mack, yes, he is by far the second best and probably might have had the most impact on his defense, but Donald's stats are there.
Donald's stats are unreal. But, like whenever I say that offensive player of the year stats, it's a stat-based award. I feel like defensive player of the year is treated a little different because, let's be honest, defensive players are never going to win an MVP. So it's basically like your defensive MVP, and that's what defensive players should be shooting for every season. So we'll go ahead and get to offensive rookie of the year. Guys, who do you have?
No brainer. Saquon Barkley, 2,000 off-of-his yards. Second rookie to do that in NFL history. No one's even close.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be Saquon. There's no argument. It's Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, his team was absolutely horrible, but guys, Saquon Barkley is the best running back in the NFL. You look at the 2017 Giants, or 2017-2018 Giants compared to this year to last, like, they had 4 running backs going last year. They totaled 2,089 all-purpose yards. Saquon Barkley has 2,028 by himself. They averaged 4 yards per attempt. Saquon, he's averaging 5. And then 15 touchdowns for Saquon, 6 touchdowns total for all of those running backs for the Giants last year. Mm-hmm. This is the most no-brainer award, and I will be very, very disappointed if they do it like they've done it in years past and just give it to the best quarterback out of the draft.
I've seen a lot of articles that want Baker to win it, and that's just...
I've seen that too.
That's so awful.
I see one of Lamar Jackson's like there's no way. He's played 8 games.
Yeah.
He's 6-7, and there's no way.
And that'll drive me crazy because they're going to come out and say, oh, well, Baker Mayfield, he set the all-time passing record for touchdowns by a rookie. He had 27 touchdowns, and he touches the ball every single play. Saquon Barkley, has 15 touchdowns this season, and he might see the ball, every third play, if that, So it would be absolutely abysmal if Saquon does not walk out with the award. So Defensive Rookie of the Year, I think we're all going to be unanimous on this yet again. And it was kind of a surprise, if you were looking at the draft from last year. Who do you guys have?
Darius Leonard, led the league in sacks. Tackles.
Darius Leonard and tackles. I was going to say, no,
yes, led the league in tackles.
That would be crazy if the linebacker did that.
Yes.
163 tackles, 2 interceptions, 7 sacks. Darius Leonard. The Colts dominated the draft this year, by the way.
Oh, they killed it.
Very good job.
Very good job, guys.
Oh, you could really make an argument that Quentin Nelson should be your Offensive Rookie of the Year.
He at least is in the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be mad about that. And with Darius Leonard, I wouldn't be mad if he got Defensive Player of the Year votes. I mean, he had 20 more tackles than anyone else in the NFL. Van Der Esch was kind of a one-trick pony, didn't have any sacks on the season. Darius Leonard had 7 sacks, 8 pass deflections, and, if you just look at his team stats, he only trails the interception leader on his team by 1. He's second on the team in sacks. He's the team leader in forced fumbles, second in pass deflections, and he's first in fumble recoveries. And we're looking at a guy who is on a top 10 defense doing that as a rookie. So, guys, Coach of the Year. I'll be mad if you say anybody else than my guy.
Yeah.
So, the 2 guys for this award, falling below everybody else.
Hugh Jackson?
Yes, Hugh Jackson being one of them. That'll be Matt Nagy. But no, the award goes to Pete Carroll. They took a team that was in 100% rebuilding mode, and that lost Earl Thomas in week 4, and a 10-6. None of us have them going higher than 8-8. I think I have them 8-8. You guys have them at? They won 10 games for being in the playoffs now. I don't know if any other coach could have done this for this team. The defense, I don't even play on the defense anymore.
Yeah,
and they put it together somehow.
I completely agree with you. Those are the only 2 people you can even consider. Pete Carroll blew away expectations, but it's Matt Nagy for me. I mean, nobody had the Bears this high in just some of their games, how dominant they've been against some of the top teams in the NFL. I'm going Matt Nagy. It kills me.
Yeah, I'm going Matt Nagy as well. I mean, Vegas had them projected for 6.5 wins. They had 12 wins. They were projected to be the 5th worst team in the NFL, and they're one of 5 teams now with 12 wins. I think that should be a landslide, unanimous. Matt Nagy, he did a fine job. Even if he wasn't the Bears coach and did this with any other team, that would be, he would be given the award. So, guys, the NFL playoffs are officially set. We have the Chiefs, Patriots, Texans, Ravens, Chargers, and Colts representing the AFC, and we have the Saints, Rams, Bears, Cowboys, Seahawks, and Eagles representing the NFC. Guys, we're going to go through, break down some of the games. I'll end up getting your AFC, NFC title game and who the winner's going to be and then who will eventually win the Super Bowl. But we'll just go ahead and start it off first. We actually have a divisional matchup first on our slate. We have the Colts at the Texans. Guys, who do we have winning?
I'm good at Texans, Super Bowl 2 champions end of the season. And it looks been great, but Texans been great all season too. What about this matchup is? Texans won, 9 straight games? What was that, number 9 straight games?
I think they won the Texans.
Yeah.
They had won 10 games, I believe.
10 games in a row. The Colts went 9-1 to make the playoffs. So 2 really hot teams could go to the Texans at home.
Yeah, I mean, and these 2 teams played a great 2-game series this year. They split them. One went to overtime. One was a 1-possession game. The Texans scare me just because the last 4 games, they've had no ground game whatsoever. And that kind of was a strength during the middle of their season. And they've also allowed, I didn't realize this, 62 sacks. That is the most since 2006 when poor John Kitna took 63.
Oh, my goodness.
Poor John.
I was so happy I got to bring up John Kitna on the podcast.
Living legend.
This combo should allow the Colts to dominate the time of possession. That being said, I've watched a game where the Colts go scoreless while throwing the ball 50 times. I'm going to go with the Texans, but I'm really looking forward to this game. I think it's going to be a great one.
Yeah, no, this is, as far as just like an actually good game. I think this may be the best game on our slate. Guys, we have, like what Layton said, we have the two hottest teams that are in the AFC playing right off the bat. But I'm going to give the edge to the Colts here because what the Texans, in order to be successful, have to get to the quarterback. And the Colts just so happen to be the best team at keeping their quarterback upright. And I think I saw a bizarre stat. Out of every 100 dropbacks that Andrew Luck has had this season, he's gotten sacked like 2.4 times, which is one of the all-time lows whenever you talk about quarterbacks in this new system where basically every single play they're going to be dropping back to pass it. And I do look back at the last game that they had played. The Texans, they have a phenomenal... they're phenomenal at getting to the passer, but they only sacked Andrew Luck 2 times. Like, they're going to have to get more pressure on Andrew Luck in order to win this game. I don't think that that's going to be the case. This Colts defense is legit, and if you couple that with the fact that Deshaun Watson gets a little careless with the ball at times, and he takes a ton of sacks, whether it be him holding the ball too much or the offensive line isn't that great, I just think that the Colts are a more complete team, and I do think the Colts will win this game. And spoiler alert, I have them going on quite a run in the playoffs. Chargers at the...
Boy, less than a month ago.
We've seen all of these games.
2 weeks ago.
We've seen all these games except for Bears and Eagles this season.
Lamar Jackson, very hard guy to stop. The Ravens just absolutely dominated Chargers in the first matchup. But seeing him twice this, frequently, kind of keep anything in your mind. I'm going to take the Chargers in a really close game on the road. I know Philip Rivers always loses this game, but he'll win this one.
Yeah, I mean, again, the Chargers get rewarded for a 12-1 season by having to go to a team that completely dominated them, 2-3 weeks ago. But me and Layton were talking about before the broadcast, can Lamar Jackson look off his first read?
No.
He is
spoiler alert, no.
No, and that's why I was so confident on this podcast before, saying that teams are going to figure out Lamar Jackson. They haven't been able to. He is just a great, great, great athlete, explosive. Actually, fun fact, the Chargers did avenge both their losses to the Chiefs and the Broncos this year.
Oh, wow.
They have won all their second matchups with all their teams. They have done very well with that this season, so I think the Chiefs are going to win. The issue is if the Ravens can get up by a score or two, I have a hard time believing the Chargers are going to win this game. The first half is going to be a huge deciding factor for me. I'm going to go with the Chargers. They were my Super Bowl pick, but man, the Ravens are a scary team that could beat anybody in the NFL.
Yeah, I do. There's something to be said of seeing something twice, and Lamar Jackson had just about as good as a game as he could have possibly had against this Chargers defense, and Phillip Rivers had just as bad as a game as he could have possibly had against the Ravens just a few weeks ago. And those two things are not going to go in those favors yet again. I think that the Chargers are going to smarten up. They're going to use Derwin James, who in college was used as a middle linebacker at points, just to basically say, hey, they're running a college offense. Like whenever they played Jalen Hurts last year in the opening game of the season, they put him at middle linebacker and they said, okay, just spy the quarterback. I think that they're going to smarten up a little bit and use Derwin James more of just a defensive athlete instead of a safety. And you look at all the weapons that the Chargers actually have on defense to maybe contain Lamar Jackson actually being able to see it for the second time of the season. I do think that the Chargers are going to win this game. I do trust Phillip Rivers at this point. I know he hasn't looked that great recently, but he just has too many weapons. The only thing I'm going to look out for going down into this game is the health of Melvin Gordon. I actually don't think Melvin Gordon played in the last matchup, and if he is healthy and able to go, he left the game in the fourth quarter this past week. So if he's good to go, I think the Chargers actually control the ball and are able to win this game. Even without him, I think they're going to be able to pull it off. Either way, I'm going to pick the Chargers. Yeah,
and especially if the Ravens get down early, they're going to be in trouble with that pass rush. They should be, but
nothing with the Ravens. I just learned every game Lamar Jackson has started, the Ravens have had at least one turnover, fumble, reception, whatever.
Yeah, and you look at the game against the Browns. He's one play from Tymont not saving him on that fumble off of that little option away from the Ravens not even being here. So I think that if they are down early, he's probably going to get careless with the ball. I do like the Chargers. I think that they're just more of a more complete team, where the Ravens are kind of a one-trick pony. Eagles at the Bears. We're going to switch to the NFC. Nick Foles will be starting in this game. Guys, who do you like?
I'm going to go with the Bears. At home the defense shows up. This game might be close from an offensive standpoint, but from an actual eye test, not going to be close at all.
Yeah, before the playoffs, I think I actually said out loud, the Bears will not lose at home. This is a home game. I think it'll be lopsided. Bears win.
Yeah, I think this will be a lopsided victory. I think that the Bears are going to be able to put a lot of pressure on Nick Foles, something that Nick Foles really hasn't seen a lot of lately. And, you get pressure on that offense, make them try to air it out more. Eddie Jackson should be back for the Bears. I think the Bears have a lot going for them right now. The Eagles do too, but I'm just going to go ahead and give the edge to the Bears because they are at home. Seahawks at the Cowboys, guys. Seahawks go on the road despite beating the Cowboys earlier this season. Who do we like?
This game is two teams that are very similar to me. They're both in the football a lot. Both have good, stout defenses. But Russell Wilson is so better than Dak Prescott in every facet of football. I'm going to go to the Seahawks because in the fourth quarter of this game, both teams ran the ball 30-plus times. So they're going to make a big play with their arm. And try to do that more than Dak.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Wow. That's a hot take.
Well, yeah, like Layton was saying, you have the rushing leader going against the leading and rushing for a team. It's going to be a lot of ground game, but I'm with Layton on this. I think the Seahawks are going to win again like they did earlier in the season. Not as lopsided, of course. This is, two kind of different teams now. But I do believe the Seahawks are going to win. And yes, I trust in Russell Wilson a little bit more than Dak Prescott. I'm with Layton on this hot take.
Just a tad.
Just a tad.
I think this will be a pretty interesting game, but I've said it time and time again that if it's a close game and it comes down to the fourth quarter, give me Russell Wilson. I mean, he's going to find a way to put the ball in the end zone, and if it's a close game, I'm going to give the nod to him. And Pete Carroll, he's a savvy coach. He's been there. He's won games in the playoffs time and time again, where you look at Jason Garrett, who's crumbled in these big moments. Give me Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll any day of the week over Dak Prescott, Jason Garrett. I'm not going to be surprised if this game doesn't get ugly. I'm just going to go ahead and say that. I'm not going to be surprised one bit if it doesn't get ugly early. And I actually have 3 teams on the road this week winning playoff games, so that will be interesting. So, guys, we'll go ahead and go through our playoff predictions. Did we actually agree on all those except for the Texans?
I think
Colts
so,
and Texans, and we both thought it would be a really close game, so yeah.
Wow. So we'll go ahead and give our NFC, AFC title games with a winner, and then give me your Super Bowl champion. Layton C., who do you got? AFC, NFC title game. Who's going to win those, and who's going to win the Super Bowl?
In the AFC, the Texans over the Patriots. And the NFC, the Saints over the Bears. The Super Bowl, the Texans big at home and beat the Saints.
I love Layton not coming off that take. They were sitting there 0-3, and he's like, 0-4. I look at Layton, I said, we were sitting right there in the chair. I said, Layton, are you ready to come off the take? He said, give me one more loss, and then I'll come off of it. They rattle off 10 in a row. Layton C., way to never come off a take.
Don't do it. You don't do it.
Never do it. And I love the AFC because actually my pick, the Chargers, will have to play the Texans if our dream scenario comes true.
Oh.
So from the AFC, I'm going with the Chargers versus the Patriots, with the Chargers coming victorious. And then the NFC, I'm going to go Bears versus Saints in the NFC title game. I'm going to go with the Saints here, and then the Chargers winning the Super Bowl. I'm not coming off my take.
I love it. I love it. Unfortunately, I can't come off. I have to come off a take. I had the Jaguars and the Vikings picked to be in the Super Bowl. Neither team is sitting here in the playoffs. But in the NFC, I agree with you guys. I think we're going to have the Saints and the Bears in a very, very fun game to watch. The Saints' defense is actually worse inside the dome than what they are whenever they go on the road. It's just points in the dome. Mm-hmm. And I actually give the advantage to the Bears. I think that this Bears team is so hot that I don't even know what to do about the Bears team being so hot. They have me so excited. I do think that,
Are you excited?
Unbelievably
I
excited.
can't tell.
The Saints,
Jubilant.
unbelievably excited. In order for the Saints to be successful, they have to be able to run the ball. They have to get Kamara going early. They have to get Mark Ingram kind of put the game on ice. And what the Bears do really well is that they can defend sideline to sideline against the run. Roquan Smith's one of the fastest linebackers in the NFL, and I think that's going to make a long day for Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram, and it's going to put all the weight onto Drew Brees' shoulders to go out there and throw for a ton of yards. And outside of Michael Thomas, nobody's really scary on that offense, so I will give the edge to the Bears there. In the AFC, I actually have the Colts taking on the Chargers. I like both the teams that are playing in the first round more than I like any other team in the AFC. Guys, we've talked about problems with all these teams in the past. The Chiefs, they can't stop anybody if the game's close in the fourth quarter. We saw it with the Chargers once, and I think in the playoffs, you're going to be playing a ton of close games, and if the other team has the ball, there's no way Kansas City's going to be able to stop them. And I like the Colts. The Colts, they're as hot as anybody. They're 9-1. I know that they had the hiccup against the Jaguars where they didn't score a point. But, guys, that's one game out of a 10-game stretch. And I think that the Colts, really, they don't have any holes. They have a good offensive line. You could maybe question the skill players. I don't think there's a ton of talent there. But the defense is top 10 in the NFL. So I think those are your two most complete teams. Head-to-head, Colts and Chargers, I think that the Colts are going to go to the Super Bowl this year. I think that they are unbelievably hot right at the right time. I think that the loss was actually a good thing for them because they were able to bounce back and beat the Texans in a huge statement win, and they're getting things going in the right direction. I love their head coach who's able to take these risks, and in the playoffs, we saw it last year with the Eagles. You have to take risks in order to be successful and win these close games. I have the Bears Colts in the Super Bowl. I think that this would be a phenomenal game to watch. A little chess match between the Bears defensive line against the Colts offensive line. But I am going to give the edge to the Bears, and I think that the Bears will win the Super Bowl for the second time in their franchise history.
Am I wrong to say the last time the Bears were in the Super Bowl was against the Colts?
Yes, and it was not very pretty. Devin Hester returned the kick for a touchdown, and then after that, it all went downhill.
Let's go for the quarterback, right?
Yes.
Who's better, Vex or Mitch?
Mitch by a small margin.
Small margin.
Vex goes to man. Honestly, I won't go so real quick, but I never saw Vex do anything good.
No, he didn't.
No, okay.
He
I feel like
never
people
did.
always just talked about his ability. Like it was like an urban legend of sorts. They're like, oh, when Rex Grossman gets healthy, the Bears' offense is going to flourish, and he never did anything ever worth it.
Never flourished.
Never flourished.
Never flourished.
He must have been a good practice guy.
This is a rarity, I think, for the NFL, where I look at every single team that's in the playoffs, and I look at the team, and I can legitimately see a route to where they get into the Super Bowl. Because even your lower-seeded teams are extremely hot right now. We're looking at the Colts, the Seahawks, the Texans, like all those teams started off really, really poor, but they are on fire now. You even had the Bears that were 3-3 after week 7, and they've just went on a run since then. So honestly, I think this will be one of the funnest playoffs that we will have in our lifetimes, as far as just visual enjoyment and close games.
Was that in 06, Drake, for the Bears in the Super Bowl?
Yes.
So Vex Grossman in that season threw 3,200 yards, 23 touchdowns, and 20 interceptions.
Wow.
There's also an article on here about why the similarities between this season Bears team and 06 Bears team. Not going to read it, but it's out there if you want to check it out.
Yeah. I think this will be a fun playoffs. It's not going to surprise me if any team makes it to the Super Bowl. It'll be fun to watch. So, guys, we're bringing it back. Shittiest take of the week. This is one of my favorite segments. We listen to a lot of sports talk radio, watch a lot of television on sports, and we always, we're always texting each other talking about like, oh my god, I cannot believe somebody had said this. I can't believe so-and-so believes this. But guys, shittiest take of your sports week. Layton C., lay it on me.
This actually going to go back several weeks now, about 6 weeks actually. I'm glad we're here to do this now, the three of us. Somebody once said that the Ravens would be the same team if Joe Flacco started at quarterback. And now that they have made the playoffs, and we've seen what the team has become, I think that is asinine. There's no way Joe Flacco would be this effective in this offense. The reason they're good at running the football is because Lamar Jackson averaged $4.6 per carry, and they don't got to focus on just Gus Edwards and Kenneth Dixon. And this was said by one and only Van Recker.
Yes, but you realize that they only have to guard like one receiver out of the 5 that are going out, 4 that's going out. You realize that
No, they don't. I bet Lamar could throw to a wide open guy. I bet Lamar could drop in a little touch pass somebody wide open.
Dude,
God, everybody.
I'm talking about actually physically guarding me. Anybody within 5 yards, he's not completing that pass. You realize that you can be effective running the ball if you have a good pass game, which they don't have. Yes, it would have to be different. But if you're throwing Joe Flacco 45 times a game, you're not going to win the game.
I'm just going to say
that's
Joe
where John
Flacco,
Harbaugh figured it out.
I'm just going to say, okay, wait, so they're better than they don't throw the ball.
They're better when they don't throw the ball 45 times a game because he leads the league still to this day in attempts per game. And Joe Flacco should never lead the league in attempts per game.
So what you're saying
That's
is...
crazy.
So what you're saying, when you throw the ball less, the defense will prepare for the run more than the pass. Right? So you don't think that they can just stop Gus fucking Edwards?
That is true.
No.
Gus Edwards has become.
That's it. He is like RB1. Gus Edwards, man.
Yes,
Because
he
Lamar
is.
Jackson can pull it and run the
He
ball
is, but
90
you
yards in 10
realize-
seconds.
Every game but one was a one-possession game that they had a chance to win.
I bet Joe Flacco would now have won those games. Because he can't run the football. Yesterday,
Oh.
Lamar Jackson should have had 4 rushing touchdowns. He should have had 4. He had 3. Flacco would not have had 1. Would not have 1.
Joe Flacco still would have won his division. Hands down.
He would not have.
Ooh.
But before
Ooh, I
we
don't
go
know.
back,
Hands down.
he would not have. Your mind is distorted on this. I can't figure it out.
You know,
But-
Flacco did lose to the Ravens early, or the Browns early in the season.
He did.
With Hugh Jackson.
Oh yeah, did Lamar beat them yesterday? He did. Lamar
He
beat the
shouldn't have
Browns.
beat him yesterday. He didn't
Lamar
deserve
beat
to
the
beat
Browns
him
yesterday.
No way deserved it.
Well, that much stick in the season. Before we move on, just so you guys know, Lamar Jackson drops the ball a lot. He has 10 fumbles this year.
Wow. Well, I mean, dude, he's running the ball like 15
He
times
gets
a
it
game.
back. Like he got like all but like take 2 back, but drops
B-Reich,
it.
what is your shittiest take of the week?
So there was a lot, but in Colin Cowherd, I had a couple that he could have been, but the one that
He's the
just threw me
staple of
off,
the segment.
it was, I know it was today, is when he was talking about some of the higher priced quarterbacks, not getting in, and he just overwent one thing. He said Jimmy out with an adult, artist, movie star, not in the playoffs. He tore his ACL. The ACL tear has no correlation to his dating life whatsoever. He's just so obsessed with quarterbacks not doing anything but playing football. It kills me. It absolutely kills me. Like, he talks so bad about Baker Mayfield because he's a loud quarterback. Tom Brady, I've seen screaming at his players on the sideline. Pretty good quarterback. Aaron Rodgers doesn't talk to his family. Not so sure he's a great guy.
Because he's
Teammates don't
focused
like
on
him.
playing, B-Reich.
Oh, well, teammates don't like him. Good quarterback. I see Phillip Rivers screaming at every single player. I mean, we've made fun of it time and time again. Good player, Cam Newton. I mean, that's just so stupid. Colin Cowherd needs... I just do not like him.
I really think that Colin Cowherd's favorite player should really be Russell Wilson.
he loves
It is.
Wilson. Loves him.
It is Russell Wilson.
He followed the Bull 4.
Nuh-uh.
The 4 boring quarterbacks that he loves. Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Andrew Luck, Russell Wilson.
Oh, my goodness.
On the
Those are his
playoffs.
favorite quarterbacks.
I don't understand that. Mine's not necessarily a shitty take, but this is funny. Okay, this is like hilarious. So, this guy named Bruce Feldman, he's a big dog. He has a blue check mark on Twitter. He actually tweeted, text from an FBS head coach. Quote, when will the CFP committee actually watch personnel? Notre Dame doesn't have players anywhere close to the other 3 teams or Georgia. Like watching an NFL team play a college team. I only got that notification on Twitter because I follow Lane Kiffin, and Lane Kiffin liked it.
Really?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, that's neat.
Him and his Florida Atlantic?
Atlantic.
Owls? Whatever they are.
The Owls.
You know that Lane Kiffin's sitting somewhere thinking, oh, if I had Notre Dame, I would bring in the talent and I would be a national powerhouse with Notre Dame. I just thought that was interesting because I think that that's just pretty obvious that that guy, he was trying to protect Lane Kiffin whenever Lane Kiffin actually texted the guy that, and Lane Kiffin favorited the tweet. He liked it, so he kind of just like ousted himself right there. Like if you're gonna make a tweet, or if you're going to make a text and you're going to back that text up whenever somebody tweets it, just go ahead and retweet it, Lane. Like, we know it's you. You don't have to hide it.
It's Lane.
So, guys, we'll go ahead and transition straight to darts. Pew, 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 pew. We're playing darts, baby. Darts is a staple of the show. Each week we go around the room and we each throw a dart. Each dart represents something, and we discuss whether or not that, whatever the issue is, we either agree on it, disagree on it. Layton C, what are we playing this week?
Well, you gotta know, tonight's New Year's Eve, and nothing happened on New Year's Eve. But the next day, you don't really feel so good. If we're gonna play, you delete hangover food.
Ooh.
We're helping out some of us tomorrow, most people in the world tomorrow, so let's get going.
All right, Layton C, producer, your throw. And we have a 6.
A 6 is tacos. Ooh, tacos. After a long night out with the crew, do I want a taco the next day? Really? I don't know what to know. A taco is the thing that you eat the night of the party. I thought the next day a taco wouldn't sound as good to you at 4:30 in the morning or 8 in the morning.
Well, here's where I'm going to disagree.
Okay.
It's going to sound kind of snobbish, but living in Texas for a year and a half, that Mexican food is phenomenal. It could actually, it is so much better. I've become a snob now of Mexican food. Those tacos, those street tacos, literally can cure a hangover.
By themselves.
Literally. The flavors, and I don't know what they do. I don't know if they sprinkle a little medicine on it. I don't know what they do, but tacos...
Infused with Pedialyte.
That's what it is.
It might be.
They soak the meat in Pedialyte before they cook it.
And I'm not going to lie, a nice little margarita on the side, kind of get some of that hangover feel out. Hey, they might put Pedialyte in their margaritas. I don't know. But I'm going to go with taco. Definite eat.
Oh, man, top 5. See, this one's tough to me because the only thing that I use to combat this issue is Pedialyte and maybe occasional Gatorade and Wheat Thins. So, I really only have a top 3 in my category for this. Tacos, I do agree with Layton. Being from a small town, there's not too many places open whenever it's closing time. And Taco Bell is always a go-to. It's a great to go the night of. Wouldn't necessarily say it's great for the morning after. I will say that tacos are not a top 5, but if you go with top 5 foods whenever you of the night of, whether it be a Don Taco, which we know is a good one for that, but Taco Bell, just a regular taco the morning after, no.
Can I just put a little tidbit out there? If the only taco available is a Taco Bell taco, no, it is not.
Okay, that's how I was getting at. That's what I was getting at with my thing. Like, no, you want Taco Bell the next morning. You want it the night of.
No, not Taco Bell.
Okay. All right.
So we are in agreement that a taco is not a top 5 hangover food.
Not. Yeah.
So B-Reich, your throw. And we have a 12.
A 12 is light blue Gatorade. Not Powerade.
Yes.
I'm letting Drake start with this one.
I don't know what it is about the light blue Gatorade, but guys, they put something special in there that saves you. It is a savior. It is my top 1 food for this. Guys, the night after, you had a rough one. Obviously, you had a rough one. You have to replenish the body. You have to fuel the temple. And in order to do so, you have to start it off with the morning of, with a big old gulp of light blue Gatorade. Guys, you can't go for the hard blue. You can't go for the dark blue. Guys, this is a one thing that you have to have in the mornings. And if you haven't utilized this, you need to start. Because for some reason, you wake up, and you could wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, like, that little wake up that you have as soon as everything kind of wears off and you're wanting something, you drink about half the bottle, and then lie back down, take your nap, and you are good to go. It is a cure-all, fix-all, light blue Gatorade, must have, top one. B-Reich, what do you think?
So, Drake, what if I only have blue Powerade?
Blue Powerade doesn't cut it, man. Powerade, that hurts my stomach, and it makes for a very, very bad morning if you don't have a light blue Gatorade.
Actually, light blue Gatorade was probably, growing up, my favorite Gatorade by far. It's something about it I really do like. And I've grown my palate a little bit, especially Gatorade comes out with new flavors all the time. There's different Gatorades that I do prefer over the light blue. But I'm going to say Gatorade in general is a definite eat or drink, rather, whatever you want to say, after a hangover. And Drake swears by the light blue one. So I think it's called Glacier Freeze. We don't need to get into that. It's light blue.
Yeah,
Drink
it's
it.
light blue.
Yeah.
It doesn't have a name. It's just light blue Gatorade the morning after.
Yeah, Ben, you're right. Light blue Gatorade is the best Gatorade. Still this day. Actually, the first time I saw light blue Gatorade, I was in 5th grade playing basketball for a private school. And
He had to throw it in there. I was playing basketball for a private school.
private school. I was
Layton C was recruited at a private school. Little humble brag there. He was a private school basketball player in 5th grade. So if you guys are ever questioning any of his NBA knowledge or college basketball knowledge, just go ahead and throw that out the window. Private school basketball player in 5th grade. Layton C, take us away.
we're at a away game at another private school.
Okay, so top level competition.
And I'm in line to get to the thing after my game or whatever, because 6th grade plays after 5th grade does. And I see light blue Gatorade. And I talk to my buddy, like, what is that? Like, I got one. And I'm like, this is the best Gatorade ever. And to this day, the best Gatorade ever is light blue. If I buy a Gatorade, it's light blue.
Honestly, though, like, light blue Gatorade is not my favorite Gatorade for after a sporting event or, any workout or something. I'm a big fan of the sour apple, but for the morning after, light blue is just the best.
I've actually acquired the cucumber one now. But light blue, I can't dog in light blue. That's like a, oldie but goodie.
A
One of
staple.
these days we'll do top 5 Gatorade flavors. We can really get
Yes,
into that.
we will. Oh, yes.
We'll get some weird ones, I'm sure. And whenever the LeBron flavor comes out, Layton will just be, oh yeah, best one ever.
Cannot get any better.
All right, so, my throw. And we have a 20.
A 20 is egg salad.
Egg salad.
Egg salad.
What? Has anybody even tried that?
When you're hungover, do you want egg salad or not, man?
I could maybe go for an egg sandwich, maybe not egg salad. That just instantly you're going to start your day off
Egg
terribly
salad
that way.
how about an egg salad
Absolutely
sandwich?
not.
How about an egg salad sandwich?
Still no. Definite delete.
Yeah, I don't like egg salad. I'm not hungover. This is a 10 out of 10 delete. Not even a thing. Actually, it's not even be typed out ever to be deleted. Just
Yeah.
not existent.
And just so people know, we were just needing one more food to put on our list. I mean, we get like 20. And Layton said egg salad. I was like, well, it won't be called out. And it did. So, yes, absolutely delete. The smell alone will just kill you.
Wow. I can't even believe that made the top list. I mean, I only have 3.
We also have cream corn and clam chowder on this list.
We have to get like 20-something. Everybody has like 2.
It's tough, man.
it was
You know
rough.
that there's... I hope that there's one guy listening right now that's just sitting there thinking like, oh, that's my go-to every morning. Egg salad. Just get me started right.
My favorite thing on the list is we have egg salad, not pizza.
Dude, cold pizza should have been on there.
I didn't put it
Yes,
on there.
cold pizza's a definite one, but... So,
Okay, Layton,
Layton, run
so
us through
recap
it.
for us.
Alright, so we are not eating Taco Bell tacos. We are eating tacos with Pedialyte and I'm in Texas. We are definitely eating light blue Gatorade, not Powerade. And egg salad is non-existent in our lives.
All right, so let's go ahead and get back to some NCAA football talk. Just a little smooth transition here. So, guys, basically my plan, ending last week, I was going to go ahead and throw it on here. That we were going to come on and talk about two legitimate games that we had on Saturday, but both games kind of sucked. It was Bama getting up 28-0 on Oklahoma, went on cruise control. Then we saw Clemson outgain Notre Dame, 538 to 248, sack Book 6 times, and win the game 30-3. Guys, are Clemson and Bama just this much better than everyone else, or did the committee just really mess this up?
So Clemson and Alabama are that much better than every other team out there, but they messed it up because there were 3 good teams in college football, and that's Alabama, Clemson, and Georgia. Everybody else is just good. Georgia almost beat Alabama. Oklahoma beat Alabama whenever Alabama didn't care in the second half, and Notre Dame just should be on the same field as Clemson. The committee messed this up because they want to put a 2-loss team in over Oklahoma, who won the Big 12, because that was their big thing, Big 12, you get a game, your team will be in. And they will put on Notre Dame, who didn't lose the game. Well, without Notre Dame, just kind of Notre Dame's thing now, losing big games, and that 1-loss teams aren't always better than 2-loss teams.
They're not, but then you are also going to start devaluing the regular season and going undefeated. And not always the best team gets to the championship game of something. I mean, we have college basketball where we have 64 teams. Not always the best team is going to win. I mean, last year they did with Villanova. But, it all comes down to Notre Dame did not belong in the top 4, but you can't – a team who beat a Michigan team, a team who played a couple of tough opponents, they went undefeated. You had to put them in there. They need to be made to go into a conference, though. The lack of a championship game is actually abysmal. Oklahoma, I mean, I would probably say Georgia was a better team, but Oklahoma, at least they put up an exciting second half. But Notre Dame, they need a championship game.
Yeah, and the Oklahoma-Alabama game was basically what we've said on here. Like, we knew both teams were going to be able to score, but Alabama would stop Oklahoma probably 6 times, and Oklahoma would only be able to stop Alabama 3 times. And we knew that this was going to be the result of the game before they even played it. And you look at Notre Dame, like, Notre Dame is not that good of a football team. Like, the committee just threw everything out the window. Like, I understand that if you just want to say, hey, what did you do during the regular season? Like, how was your regular season? Yeah, I mean, UCF had to be up there. And I don't understand this because, you put Notre Dame in, who doesn't even have a title game for a conference. They don't even play a conference. And I understand that they beat Michigan, but how good does Michigan look now after the last 2 outings for Michigan?
I do think they were overrated, yes.
Yes, and then that was their biggest win of the season. And then you look at UCF compared to Notre Dame, like they're both undefeated. Did either of them really have great wins? Probably not. But then you look at it with, okay, who did they both play? Notre Dame played a Pitt team and won by 1 score, and UCF played a Pitt team and beat them by 40. Like, I don't understand it. Like, they didn't get this right. They didn't even go by, the lay of the land and say, okay, well, if we have 4 undefeated teams, then we're going to put them all in there. They didn't look at it, okay, from an X's and O's standpoint, who looks the best. If it was that, then Georgia would be in there and you'd have a case for LSU. But they didn't do anything right out of this, and we ended up getting 2 very, very bad bowl games, and both of them were basically unwatchable.
Okay, so I see your point with the undefeated with UCF, but at the same time, Notre Dame did have a tougher schedule than UCF. And you can't just compare to the one team that they played against each other. I mean, teams look bad one week almost every single time. I mean, Memphis lost to Wake Forest, and that was their toughest opponent all year. University of South Florida lost like their last 5 games. I mean, yes, there's no
once Blake
perfect
Barnett
thing.
got hurt, they lost all those games. But I mean,
he didn't get hurt 6 games ago.
He was hurt for a while. I don't know. I just don't understand where the committee was thinking here. Like, obviously, both teams were outmatched. They were outmanned, and I don't know where they're evaluating things.
Well, one thing I'm talking about is Notre Dame's fan base is huge.
That's the only reason they got in.
Like a humongous fan base.
I mean, dude.
And this is still run by ESPN owns this. Like, this isn't it's a relay thing. This is an ESPN run deal. ESPN wants ratings. How many people are going to watch Clemson and Notre Dame? Well, guess what? It was down 31% of ratings. 30% of the country did not watch this game. I didn't watch this
totally
game.
see that, but I mean, I see what the committee did. They totally went off who had the best regular season. They didn't put a 2-loss Georgia team in. They didn't put UCF because they didn't have a tough schedule. Notre Dame, I'm not saying they were good enough, and they do need to be made to be put in a conference, because the fact that they don't have a big game at the end of the season is ridiculous, and everybody else has to play it. But they clearly went off of a formula. I mean, it was who played the best during the regular season with a Power 5 schedule.
Yeah, see, I didn't get the I didn't get the, I'll say, a privilege of watching with any Notre Dame fans. But one of my friends that actually texted me, Fletch from Hump Day Hoops Hysteria, texted us and said, I'm watching this game and there's Notre Dame fans here and they're complaining about the refs. Like, the refs have no, they couldn't help them win. Like, if they were trying to make Notre Dame win, they couldn't have figured out a plan to make Notre Dame win that game. And that's just the MO on Notre Dame fans. And they're going to stay on the fact that they are a title contender every year. But guys, are we done taking them seriously as a title threat?
No, because you can't.
I'm going to make it easy for you. Yes, we all are.
In a sense, yes, but you can't just say, no, they're not going to ever be good again. Like, they get good players. Speaking of good players, you know what Brian Kelly said after the game?
What was that?
What?
The discrepancy in talent was not that great. His players just didn't execute. If you have good players, they execute against good players.
You know, that same Brian Kelly at the beginning of the season came out and said that this is not even one of his most talented teams. They just know how to win. So I don't know how you can go out.
What is it, man?
Yeah, you can't go out like week 4 and say, you know, we don't have the talent we've had in the past, and then at the end of the season you're playing Clemson, who's been in the title game, like, basically since this thing has been created, and say that the talent discrepancy was not that big. We just lost. So you're basically saying that you did not do your job as a coach over the last 4 years because you had teams that were way better than Clemson.
Yeah, that's what he said.
I mean, a lot of bad takes. I mean, that could have been on the shittiest take.
Yeah, there's another one for shittiest take.
I'm with Layton. I mean, you can't just damn all future Notre Dame teams. I mean, it is different recruiting classes and different teams. But, I mean, this last decade, this last 15 years, it's just been, God, it's hard to erase that in the mind. It's really hard to erase it because it's the same thing, it seems like, every single year when they're in a big bowl game.
5-13 in their last 18 bowl games. They're done. They're done for me. Yeah, they beat LSU twice, beat Miami once. Those are good wins. And then you beat Rutgers and Hawaii. So I'm done with them. So, guys, we'll do a little college football preview. Lucky for us, we actually have 2 title games this week. We have LSU and UCF, which is a title game for UCF. And then we have Bama and Clemson. First on the list, we'll actually talk about Bama and Clemson. Bama is now a 6.5-point favorite. Guys, they will kick off a week from right now. Who is going to win this game, and what are the keys to victory for both teams?
So the key to victory, on the Clemson side, cut the Wolf Oklahoma. You just got to be able to stop Alabama. I think they'll be able to do cut. Defense is good. Front 7 is next level good. They're all going to get drafted. And they're going to be able to score points. I think they'll be able to score points more consistently in Oklahoma, not always in one big spurt in the second half. And for Alabama, it's the same thing. You got to stop Clemson, you got to score points. These teams are both so evenly matched. And guys, are you kind of feeling Clemson in this game?
Clemson's going to win this game pretty convincingly.
Yeah, I'm kind of. I don't think Clemson's going to be. I'm kind of feeling Clemson. It might just be because I've just gotten bored with how good Alabama is. Mm-hmm. But in my mind, all sign points are Clemson's winning this game. It's kind of like last year. You look at the Philadelphia Eagles and Patriots. Look at the teams. You think Eagles are a better team. But picking the Patriots. It's kind of the same thing here. And I kind of want to go to Clemson.
Yeah, I mean, I can see both teams winning. I'm going to pick Alabama. I think this is going to come down to 2 things. Clemson, though, their biggest weakness all season, not all season, just in 2 games, they've had some susceptible pass defense. I mean, they left 510 yards to Texas A&M, 430 yards to South Carolina. And I say that, but then they completely shut down Ian Brook. So, you know, Tua's a lot better than Ian Brook. I'm going to go with Bama. I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's definitely going to come down to the turnovers like most games do. And I'm going to go with Bama, just a gut pick. I'm looking forward to this game because these are by far the two best teams.
Oh, yeah, these are by far the two best teams. And I think Clemson's going to win this game. And you look at the close games that Clemson has had. They had a close scare against Texas A&M. They had a close scare against Syracuse. But that was without their starting quarterback. I mean, they did. Trevor Lawrence started the game against Syracuse, left early. He was hurt. And then against Texas A&M, they were still trying out the two-quarterback committee. But since then, this team has been on a roll. They have been twice as dominant as Alabama down the stretch. They have been absolutely housing teams, and it's not just from the defensive side of the ball. They're putting up a ton of points on the other side, and this is, I'm going to go ahead and say it, a week after they played the Heisman winner, this is the best quarterback Alabama will play or have played all season in Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence, he's shown that he can rise to the occasion in a big game. He set records for a semifinal game, and he's only a freshman. And that would be the game that he would be nervous for. I feel like right now it's just going to be another game to Trevor Lawrence. You can't look at the fact that he's a freshman because he's already performed in one big game. And I think that Clemson defense is actually legit. I know that there might be missing some pieces due to some drug tests, but, I mean, at the end of the day, they still probably have two of the best defensive players in this game. Probably the two best defensive players whenever you look at where they're going to go in the draft. I think Clemson has a lot more talent than what Alabama has. Alabama's just a little bit deeper, but on the other side of the coin, Alabama hasn't really shown that they're super deep, because you look at the game against Oklahoma, if there was one team that you could say kind of get worn down, it was Alabama, where Clemson, they can get a lead early and they continue to pour it on in the second half, and they've finished games like that. Like, they'll go into a game winning by 12, 15, and then end up winning the game. They're up like 12, 15, 20 points at halftime. They finish strong, where Alabama doesn't do that. I think this is going to be a close game early, but I think Clemson is able to put the foot on the pedal and end up pulling away late. I really like Clemson in this game, and it's not going to be surprising if Clemson wins by more than one score. So we'll go ahead and go to the second national title game that I talked about. And if you don't believe me that it's a title game, ask anybody in Orlando. We have the Fiesta Bowl. Number 8 UCF is taking on LSU. Guys, who do we like in this matchup?
I don't think LSU. I hope UCF wins, honestly, because I want to see them as another banner. I want to see them with wings because I just think that it's ridiculous and funny and all that stuff. But losing the top quarterback definitely hurts them, and for that reason, I think LSU will win the game. It's going to be close, though. The spread 7.5 points for LSU. I think it'll be way closer than that.
I do think it's going to be a close game. LSU, I think it's just going to come down to UCF having a backup quarterback. I wish they had their starting quarterback, because then I would probably be picking UCF in this game, and it would be putting more pressure on the College Football Playoff Committee. I mean, this is honestly, if UCF can pull this out, it should put all the pressure on them in the world. It really sucks that they don't have their starting quarterback. I feel like this is going to be a game where they lose, and then they're going to say, see what we told you, you're not as good as the big dog. So I'm going with LSU. The defense will be stifling. LSU's going to win this game.
If Mackenzie Milton was playing, I think that UCF would run away with this game. I think that they would have the better quarterback. I don't think Joe Burrow's that good. And in order to beat UCF, like UCF, even if they don't have their starting quarterback, they're going to figure out ways to put the ball into the end zone. I mean, we saw them against Memphis. I know Memphis isn't as good as LSU in no stretch of the imagination, but they were still able to have a guy rush for 200 yards, and they had Mack actually throw for 348 yards. So they still have a well-balanced attack, even though Mackenzie Milton's not putting the ball in the bucket and guys are just running for 70-yard scores. I think that UCF, this game being a month off, does help them in the fact that they are able to get that quarterback, Mack, kind of put him into the offense and draw up a game plan for LSU. We've seen LSU struggle against quarterbacks that are able to run the ball. And you look at their losses, their 3 losses, it was against Kellen Mond, who's one of the better scrambling quarterbacks in the nation. And then they lost a game to Felipe Franks, who can also move as well. I really think that LSU could be in some trouble in this game. I'm going to go with the gut pick and say UCF is able to win this game, just because LSU, if they get down early, won't be able to score points. UCF's going to come out, and they're going to have scripted plays for a quarterback who can run really, really well, and I am going to give the edge to UCF. They feel disrespected. LSU is in a spot that they don't want to be in. They think they should be playing for a title. They think that they should be, they think every player there won't be happy to be in the Fiesta Bowl, where UCF, they're disrespected. They feel like they have to win this game in order to get some love from the country. I'm going to pick UCF because the mentality of those players typically comes to show in times like this. We saw it with Alabama playing Oklahoma when Trevor Knight looked like the best quarterback in the world. So Rose Bowl. We have number 9 Washington taking on Ohio State. Guys, who's going to win?
I'm taking Ohio State. I don't think it'll be even that close, honestly. Dwayne Haskins over the last month of the season and get Michigan has looked like a legitimate NFL quarterback, possible top pick. I think we'll keep it going with Washington. Washington defense is stout. I know it's on the other side of the country. Might be a home game for Washington. Don't know how big the fan base is, really. But Ohio State, I think they roll this one.
Yeah, I mean, going off yours, that's Washington's best attribute is their defense. But Ohio State just trounced Michigan. We thought that was the most dominant defense in college football. So I'm going with Ohio State. I think it's going to be very similar to that Michigan game.
You know what I love about the Rose Bowl is that it is a Pac-12 team versus a Big Ten team.
No matter what.
No matter what. And where is it played?
California.
In Pac-12 land. Like, it's a home game for those teams every single year.
Well, the Big Ten's gritty. We don't care. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I do think Ohio State is way more talented. They're going to be able to win this game. Washington, they were my pick to actually make a run at a title this year. But, Jake Browning just has not looked that good. And I don't think Dwayne Haskins is this big-time NFL quarterback. I think that they throw a lot of screen passes, but that keeps the chains moving. And I think that, man-to-man, Ohio State is way better. And I think Ohio State wins this game, and I think it's going to get ugly pretty early. So Sugar Bowl. We have number 15 Texas taking on number 5 Georgia. A lot of people think Georgia's probably the best team in the country, not in the college football playoff. Guys, who's going to win?
This game still makes me mad that it exists. Because Texas shouldn't be in this game.
No.
This should be Michigan versus Georgia. Like, 100% what it should be. The line in this game is Georgia minus 12.5. They're 460 favorites to win the game. Georgia's going to throttle Texas. They're a 3 team in college football. Clemson, Alabama, and one place tomorrow in the Sugar Bowl, and that's Georgia, and they're going to destroy Texas Longhorns.
Remember that little first half between Alabama and Oklahoma?
Yeah.
That's going to be the whole game.
Whole game?
It's just Georgia's going to be rolling them. It's going to be Georgia.
56 zip? That's cool
Not
prediction?
called 56 zip, but easy 21 point spread here.
All right.
Yeah, I don't even think that this game's going to be close, like, whenever you talk about the spread. Like, I think that Georgia's going to house them. And you look at, like, a guy like Sam Ehlinger. Yeah, he had that tremendous run where he didn't throw an interception, but he was playing against the Big 12. And then he played against Kansas and had 2 interceptions. I mean, if you're throwing 2 interceptions against Kansas, go ahead and lock him up for 12 against Georgia. Georgia's going to come in, absolutely house him. I think Georgia wins this game by 3 scores. I don't think Texas is going to have an answer for Georgia offensively. I think they're just going to turn around, hand the ball off, run it down their throat. Even if they make Jake Fromm beat them, Jake Fromm is good enough to beat this Texas team. Like, Texas, they lost to Maryland this year, and you look at, like, this team is just not that good. For them to be ranked 15th in the country is the biggest slap in the face to every other team that's even ranked close to them. I think that this will be ugly early. I think this will be ugly late. And, just look at how close the game was between Alabama and Georgia. And then look how close the games were between Oklahoma and Texas. And we saw the result of what happened when Alabama played Oklahoma. I think this game will be ugly, ugly, ugly. So we'll go ahead and get to one of my favorite segments, guys. It's called Be Right, the Hot Take Detective. So each week that we have Brandon on, I think Brandon only watches sports to try to tell me I'm wrong on takes. And each week I bring in 3 fresh takes for him. They're hot. They're usually really, really hot. And I think this week I have some pretty good ones. And Be Right will tell me whether I am right or wrong in my take. First take. I've been on it for years, but the quarterback position is the most overvalued position in any sport.
I'm going to give you some credit before we get started. This is by far the best 3 questions or hot takes that you've given me. Usually you give me one where I'm just like, well, that is just So stupid. These are 3 really good ones. Okay. So this obviously has quite a bit of validity to it. I am going to disagree, and I'm going to get into that here. So I do think you're right, where I think marginal to average quarterbacks are very overvalued, and they're getting paid so. An average to marginal quarterback can win in this league, but you can't be paying them $25 million. That takes $15 million off the books that can get them pieces that can help them win. You see that with Matthew Stafford. You see that with Joe Flacco. You're going to start, even with Aaron Rodgers, a dominant quarterback, he's now worth $33 million. People like Tom Brady, who take like $15 million contracts, have kind of paved the way of how you should play the game and how you should take your contracts. But to say they are overvalued, by far, I think the quarterback position is the most valuable position in the world of sports. We hit on it earlier. You have the Colts, who were awful last season. You have Andrew Luck back. They are a 10-win team who you have going to Super Bowl. I know there's other pieces, but that's a lot on Andrew Luck. The 49ers, top 5 pick in the draft, actually will be probably number 2 or 3. They probably would have been a wild card team or fringe wild card team with Jimmy Garoppolo. We can even go look at the Panthers as soon as Cam got injured. 6 losses in a row. And one of the big analogies that I thought of, Bryce Harper is going to sign the largest contract we've seen in baseball, probably this offseason. If Bryce Harper was out on a wild card game, we would not view it as big as a deal as even Marcus Mariota being out of a play-in game. So that's what I'm saying. It does have value, but paying these quarterbacks, I think you're right when you're saying quarterbacks getting those high salaries, especially the quarterbacks like Matthew Stafford and the Joe Flacco's of the world, the teams aren't going to do it because they're going to find quarterbacks like Nick Foles, who's going to take a $12, $15 million contract, and you're going to be able to build around them more. So I get what you're saying, but they are the most valuable position in sports.
But I think that they're also the most overvalued. Just by how much they get paid.
Bryce Harper's worth $30 million a year to a ball club, and you said all of sports. You get what I'm saying. I get what.
There's kind of 2 ways to look at it, and I understand that the quarterback is probably your most important position on a football field. But if I run through the list of teams that won a Super Bowl over the past 7-8 years, you have the Eagles with Nick Foles. You have the Patriots. Obviously, Tom Brady is Tom Brady. He's as valuable as they come. And then you have the Broncos with Peyton Manning, who basically couldn't even tie his shoes. He was one of the worst quarterbacks at that point of his career to win a Super Bowl. And then you have the Patriots back with Tom Brady. And then Seattle. Russell Wilson was not the Russell Wilson that we know today. He was just, he was a pretty raw talent that was just out there just surviving, handing the ball off to Marshawn Lynch, making some plays with his feet. And then the Ravens and the Giants, 2 quarterbacks that at the end of the day, yes, they won Super Bowls, but Joe Flacco, Eli Manning, they've never been elite for a whole entire season ever. But yet, all these guys get paid handsomely, and we see it today where we have the 6 top guys who are paid in the NFL all sitting out. I understand that it's valuable as far as an asset to have on the field, but whenever you look back in a league where there is a salary cap, it makes it way too overvalued. And whenever you talk about baseball, I understand that Bryce Harper is going to be making a ton of money, but there's not a salary cap there.
Right.
And really, you talk about the NBA, you pay a guy a ton of money, he's the highest paid player on your team, but yet he's going to be out there and the ball will go through his hands and he plays both offense and defense, and he can control the game a lot more than what a quarterback can, who's only out there for half of the snaps of an NFL game. And to pay these guys as much as they do, it just makes absolutely no sense whenever you look over the past few Super Bowl champions, and that's why I'm saying they're overvalued. I do think that they are an important piece to winning a championship. You have to have a good quarterback, but to pay them as much as what they are, to only be able to control half of the game, I think that they are overvalued in that aspect.
That was a good one. I'm going to disagree, but that's a very fine, and I do think contracts, they're not going to be seeing everybody making $28 million a year, which is a good thing for ball clubs. So
yeah, I agree there. Second take, the Eagles at this point should just go ahead and shop Carson Wentz.
Before I get, who do you think's better between the two?
For the Eagles?
Yeah, who's a better player?
Who's a better quarterback? I'm going to go with Carson Wentz. But who's better for the Eagles? And Doug Peterson? I'm going to go ahead and say that Nick Foles is better for that team.
So my whole thing is I'm going to agree with you for the pure fact that Nick Foles and Carson Wentz, when their contracts come up, are not going to be the same thing at all. Carson Wentz is going to be asking for the big money. He's got 1 year left. Carson Wentz has shown that on the field, the Eagles aren't a whole lot better of a team. And he has been injured 2 years in a row. And he has not looked like he did last season when we were talking about him being MVP. I think you're right. It's a really tough thing to do. But I think I would roll with Nick Foles, try to trade Wentz. I think you'd get a huge package back for him. And you can put more pieces around Foles where he has shown that he can win with talent. So I'm actually going to agree with you on that one.
Yeah, and you know, the way that I look at Nick Foles and Carson Wentz is basically like Rajon Rondo compared to like a Steph Curry. Like, you know, one player, basically, he has to have talent around him, and he's going to make everybody on the field better with him being in the lineup. Like, everybody's going to go up a letter grade. Where Carson Wentz, he can kind of do things for himself, he can create, and he can do some pretty phenomenal stuff. But at the end of the day, you know, you're going to have your skill players playing at a higher level with Nick Foles because he is taking the shots down the field. And if you look at trades in the past, we've seen a Sam Bradford, after like 12 ACL repairs, get traded for a number one pick in the draft. So if you go out and you shop Carson Wentz, who's a lot younger than Sam Bradford, way more proven than Sam Bradford, I think that would be... I would not be surprised if they couldn't get 3 picks out of a team. 3 first-round picks.
3 first-round picks.
Sam Bradford went for 1.
I bet they could get at least 2. Third, second.
Yeah, and then maybe like a third or something, yeah. But it's hard for a team to give away 3 years of their future. But I agree with you. I think they should probably trade Carson Wentz. I don't think they're going to, but...
Yeah.
I
I definitely think they should. And then my third take. The only coach in the AFC North that coached on Sunday that should be back on week 1 of the 2019 season should be John Harbaugh.
Well, we already got proven one with the Bengals. So I'm going to agree with you. I mean, John Harbaugh did something that other coaches just simply do not do. He basically said, hey, we're a pretty good team, but we're losing games. So he completely scrapped even his offensive philosophy, his play call. I mean, hell, he changed to a quarterback. And honestly, he was smart too, because even if it went wrong, at least you were starting a rookie quarterback. Yes, he is the only one. I mean, the Browns, interim head coach, Bengals, we've already seen that song and dance. Mike Tomlin, Layton has said all the things that the Steelers did well, and they still struggled. Their locker room's a mess. I'm going to go yes with John Harbaugh just because he was willing to say he was wrong and he changed the offensive philosophy, and that has led to wins.
Yeah, and just a little tidbit here, in case you guys don't know, like, why I'm like so big on this Tomlin thing. There's reports now that have come out that say that Antonio Brown, he actually got into like a verbal altercation with Big Ben.
Big Ben, and then he skipped several meetings and practices leading up to the game, and it's enacted for the game at the stadium, and then went home at halftime.
That's not good.
And today, Colin Cowherd, we hate him, but he said a really good thing today. Think about the teams you want to see on Hard Knocks. If it's one of those teams, things aren't going well. And right now, I'd love to see the Steelers on Hard Knocks.
Absolutely. And you know, the big thing for Tomlin over the years has been, hey, he's a player's coach. Well, what is he now? Like, if he can't keep his players in line, we've seen it time and time again. They're the biggest disaster whenever it comes into a locker room. If he can't be the player's coach, what is he? So, guys, we'll go ahead and talk about some NBA talk. Just we'll kind of hit on it briefly. So, a rarity in sports, LeBron James has had to miss several games with a strained groin. Oddly enough, teams that LeBron's played on, were they able to win last night?
No, they lost.
They lost. So now they advance to 0-14 in games that LeBron has had to miss. in his last 14 games. Guys, at what point should the Lakers be concerned about LeBron James missing time?
They should only get concerned if he starts to miss games number 10, 11, 12, up to those levels, because when Steph Curry got hurt and missed games 11, 12, they were fine, because the Warriors, Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green. Lakers are not, and the West is very, very competitive. Like, I think only 3 games separate the 14th team and the 8th team.
Mm-hmm.
So because of that, if he has to miss 11 games, 10 games, they could rely on the playoffs at that point, because this team, whether they're talented as they are, they're still super young and super raw, and a lot of work to be done still. Kudos to Fletcher. Kyle Kuzma, though, is playing very good basketball.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I kind of agree with everything you said, Layton. I think the Lakers can weather the storm and kind of figure some things out, but the West, so tight. And I know the regular season doesn't mean as much as the playoffs, but with it being that tight and needing good, playoff position, you only start getting concerned if he has to miss an extended period of time, which LeBron James has really never done. And his MRI was negative. I think they're fine right now, but hopefully this doesn't linger, because if it lingers, they could be in some trouble.
Yeah, no, I agree. And how bizarre of a stat is that? That teams that LeBron is on, when he has missed a game in his last 14, they are 0-14.
That is crazy.
That's unbelievable.
You might say important to team success.
He may be important to a team.
And I saw a headline on ESPN that said, "Is LeBron James slowing down?"
Huh.
No, he's just injured.
No, just injured, and he's also averaging like 28, almost a triple-double. But yeah, no, he's slowing down all right.
No, we're going to see that headline for like the next 15 years, I believe. So, guys, we'll go ahead and rewind to about a month and a half ago, actually. The Rockets had Melo play his final game for them. The Rockets were 4-6 at the time. Since then, the Rockets have rattled off a 16-9 record without Melo, and they have played their way back into a top 5 seed in the West, which they were out of the playoffs at the time being. And Melo has not been signed by anybody, and nobody has really even talked about it. The Rockets are also 9-1 in their last 10 games. Guys, at first people were blaming it on the fact that Ariza wasn't there anymore, but now magically after Melo was sent packing, they have transformed back to the powerhouse that we saw last year. Guys, what's different about this team with Melo and without him?
It's not even just without Melo. They also lost Chris Paul. And they've been getting a lot of Chris Paul, too. And you guys can laugh when I say this, but bringing in Austin Rivers has been huge for this team. They're playing really well with him. And James Harden, now leads the league in scoring, scores 40 points 7 times this season. Doing what he has to do to keep the team alive. And when Chris Paul comes back, whatever that is, and move Austin Rivers to the bench, and they can have him play good off the bench with Eric Gordon also off the bench, this team could be just as good as they were last year. Maybe even better, but they have to have Austin Rivers playing like this still off the bench end of March, April, June.
Isn't this the most bizarre signing, though, with Austin Rivers? Because I remember last year, just about this time, the Rockets went and played the Clippers. Austin Rivers was still on the Clippers, and Chris Paul had made it through the tunnels to go to the other locker room to confront Austin Rivers.
Oh yeah,
yeah, he did, didn't he?
So I guess it's just water under the bridge at this point. B-Reich, what do you think about Melo? Do you think that there's something to be said about him just maybe being the problem there?
So I don't think he was the complete problem in the Rockets. I do think he was scapegoated a little bit. That being said, Melo right now, the way he plays basketball, he doesn't help any franchise. Doesn't help them at all. Maybe one game out of 20, he'll go play and he'll give them the offensive firepower they need. He just is one of those players that have never decided that, hey, I'm not as good as I used to be. I need to change my game up. He's never going to change his game up. He's Melo. He's Hoodie Melo. He doesn't come off the bench. So I do think that maybe it helped in a character issue. They started playing House Jr. more, who nobody knew who that was before the season started. He's getting like 30 minutes a game. Yeah, and he's still an upgrade over Melo. I think basically without Melo there, they have figured out a more sure rotation, better defense. I think it's helped some, but I don't think there's an explanation for how much better the Rockets have gotten. I think it's definitely more of a Harden, Austin Rivers thing, those type of stuff.
Yeah. I'm just going to leave this stat out there. Last year, OKC Thunder, I waited on them to figure things out all season. Well, they waited till Melo got out of there to figure things out. They were 14 games above 500 last year. This year, 35 games in, they are 9 games above 500, and that includes Russell Westbrook missing 8 of those 35 games. I think that stat alone says it all. And then you look at the Rockets' success post-Melo and with Melo. I don't think that there's anything to describe it. I think that it's more of a mentality thing and who your veteran leadership is in the locker room. But there's something to be said about the record differences over the last 2 years, with even Melo just trying to play a role player position at this point. And I think he may be done. I think he has to be done.
He might be.
He's still on the Rockets team, technically, isn't he?
I'm not sure about that. I thought
they never released him officially. I think he's away from the team.
Oh. I have no idea.
I thought they just cut ties completely.
They put come back on Wednesday. I'll have the answer.
All right. So, guys, it is our time to put the producer in the spotlight. Each week he goes out and views several different movies, and he comes in and he reviews them. Layton C., what do you have?
1212 Pip's Entertainment Review. Sit on down for a movie to view.
Well, Ben had to leave us. He had lively things to attend to. Joy of marriage. But anyway, this week we can talk about The Mule. Star Clint Eastwood. He's a drug mule for the Mexican cartel. If you think like Gran Torino, you're about halfway right. It starts off very Gran Torino like Clint Eastwood has not aged since that movie. He reached that point in his life where this is how you look forever. He's at that point. Same looking guy. Basically, starts out, happy family, living his life. Then flash forwards like 5 years, business going under, can't find money. Guy pushes him at a party, says, hey, I know some friends. I'm getting with them. He says, okay, gives him a call. And the cartel. So boom, starts carrying hundreds of kilos of cocaine from Peoria, Illinois to El Paso, Texas.
Peoria, Illinois.
That's a long drive.
That is a long drive. Wait a second.
He's
So he's from Peoria?
Yeah.
And that's well known in the movie?
Yes.
That's kind of bizarre.
It is bizarre. So it's not crossing borders, just straight. Still not legal. Maybe in the
yes,
world.
absolutely not.
But from Peoria, Texas, once a week, he would drive. The movie was really, really good, but in the way that Gran Torino was sympathetic to where he would fall in love with the Korean family across the door and care for them, this was sympathetic in a way to where he was saddened because the family he had cut out of his life came back into his life, and those ties. The movie, for 2/3 was really good because just him steamrolling through the country, steamrolling this job down, knocking down cash. Then you have Bradley Cooper, my favorite actor, trying to find them. And it's all really high intense story. Last third starts, Clint Eastwood's story basically bottoms out into the end of it, and Cooper's story picks up. Turns out Cooper's story was just basically a common law and order cop story, and Clint Eastwood's story was really driving the movie. So I'm still going to get a 2.2 dip. Still a really good movie, but the last third of it definitely pulled it down from probably a high 2.
Wow. Yeah, see, I saw who all was in this movie, and I thought that was going to be really interesting. Like, from the trailer, you can tell exactly what Clint Eastwood is doing.
Oh, yeah.
So, it's kind of bizarre because, he's kind of played like that old man cop so many times that we've seen in his last few movies, and now he's, the exact opposite of that. Yeah. So I thought that was kind of bizarre. But, what kind of people will like this movie? Do you think everybody will like this movie, or basically just only people who really appreciate Clint Eastwood?
It's going to be more the adults around, upper 30s and older. And then you got people who like you would like it, I like it, Fletcher definitely like it. The people who just know who Clint Eastwood is, and the people who just find the kind of humor in those movies to be funnier than it actually is.
Right. I think it's interesting. I think this is one of the few movies that you talk about where I'm like, at some point in my life, I'm going to watch it.
You're going to watch this movie.
Yeah, I just don't know when it's going to be.
Yeah.
So,
it's really
interesting. Good. So 2.2 dips, The Mule.
The Mule, yep.
All right. So Layton C., any bold predictions for this week?
I don't think it's going to happen, to be bold. Texas keeps it within a one-score game with Georgia.
That's way too bold. That's not going to happen. Spoiler alert. My bold prediction, I think that Clemson not only beats Alabama, but they throttle 'em. And by throttling Alabama, that's a 2-score game. So I think that this is going to be a really weird game where we're watching it and we're like, well, how the hell has Alabama looked that good this season? Well, Clemson's just going to be better than what we all thought.
Yeah.
I think Clemson's...
I think so.
I really do. And I think that, you look at the Alabama versus Georgia game, you look at the Alabama versus LSU game, like, the spreads were pretty... They were indicative of a game that was going to get out of hand at some point or had the potential to do so. And we're looking at Alabama as a 6.5-point spread. I think they're just doing it as out of like benefit of the doubt of Alabama. And it almost looks like a sucker's bet,
Yeah.
Like we've seen a team not get tested all season. All of a sudden, they think they're going to be tested, and I think they're going to be tested in a big way, and I think Clemson is able to leave national champions by 2 scores.
Just to add that before we end the show, talked about this, I don't know, 3-4 months ago now, about how Georgia was a really good football team, but Alabama was just so good at overshadowing them. I think now that the season has ended, Alabama's such a good team that they overshadowed everybody, and no one's gotten to see really how Clemson is except for ACC followers and people who really look at that conference.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Clemson they're a special team, and I was on this months ago on the Hot Take Detective saying this would be the first of Trevor Lawrence's 3 titles. And I think we're going to see the first this Saturday. And on that note, Dippers, for Drake, for Layton, and B. Reich, the Hot Take Detective, Dippers, have a happy new year. And as always, stay saucy.